Howdy, I'm Aaron Clark and welcome to my Viva Voce presentation, a showcase of the work that I have created over the last few months as I've embarked on my journey into animation. In this presentation, I will introduce you to several of my own original works and talk you through the processes that led to their conception. I hope you enjoy. This is Jovial Hilarity, an original character designed by myself and rigged using Adobe Animate. Created as a manifestation of the jester archetype as described by Carl Jung, Jovial Hilarity's design takes inspiration from many sources. Characters such as Mickey Mouse, Roger Rabbit, the Sun from Toontown, and UPA's Gerald McBoing Boing all had an influence on Jovial's final look as well as his overall personality. A key factor in the design process that was at the forefront of my mind as I drafted variations of Jovial was simplicity. A desire to keep my character aesthetically quite basic, creating his form from rudimentary shapes, an idea greatly inspired by the style of UPA Studios, a decision that I believe allowed me to focus on the character's appeal. Jovial's design, in my opinion, is a success. His final form demonstrates the ideas that I was hoping, and his appeal has been confirmed in comments that have described him as cute. And though I am happy with the results of the final design and rig, I had difficulty achieving the results I would have liked when it came to animating, and I find the custom auto-tween feature hard to navigate. I also believe that Jovial's design lends itself better to hand-drawn animation. Over the course of the project, my approach to the character design process has evolved to think more practically about how a character is designed to be moved in an animation context. Transformation the movie is a short about a square going through an identity crisis. It was created to explore the ideas of transformation and metamorphosis in animation, and is a demonstration of a variety of different animation techniques. As part of the process of making Transformation, I began track laying a series of sound effects that would inform the visual narrative of the short. Due to the cartoon nature of a lot of the sounds, it was impossible to ignore the influence Looney Tunes was having over my ideas, and my aim was to create a somewhat humorous sequence. From the beginning of the short, it is clear to see how timing and spacing have been used to give a sense of movement to show that our character, the square, is almost tumbling along before skidding into a fall. Something I initially struggled with due to the rigidness of having to match the movement with the sound effects. I use squash and stretch as a device to transform my square into a circle on impact with floor, with the transformation happening at the extreme of the squash, which distorts the shape, allowing for the switch. To literally keep the ball rolling and continue to move the narrative forward, I chose to drop the floor into a slope, rolling the circle, relying on the persistence of vision to give the ball the illusion of inertia, before coming to a stop mid-air with anticipation, where anticipation is used to preempt the fall in the style of Wile E. Coyote. During one sequence in the short, I choose to switch from digital 2D to 3D stop motion, a decision I made to show the chaos of the scene in which a plasticine blob contorts itself from a square into a circle over and over again against the backdrop of ever-changing marks, soundtracked by a monstrous gurgler. I really think this sequence worked well, and I managed to capture the descent into madness and the juxtaposition from the wider narrative that I was aiming for. This scene reminds me of a brief moment in Dan Hertzfeldt's Meaning of Life, where he transitions from space back to Earth through a veil of dark clouds. Hardball Meets Jellyball, my first foray into animation, is a story of two balls of different properties and their interaction with each other. Like Tom and Jerry, Sylvester and Tweety, and Wiley and Roadrunner, Hardball Meets Jellyball is a cat and mouse story about the conflict that arises because of the characters' difference. To highlight the differences between them, I use solid drawing to really show the properties of the balls, focusing on how they would affect their movements. Because of its solid nature, the techniques I use to give life to Hardball vary greatly from that of Jellyball. Whereas Jellyball is obviously gelatinous, which allows for a great deal of squash and stretch, Hardball is very dense and weighty. So I had to consider the force behind its movement when timing and spacing, and I had to use anticipation to show the effort of building up speed to move. The techniques that best best demonstrated on impact of hardball into jelly ball before being rejected and bounced back out of frame. To help visually aid the viewer, I chose to color the balls to cement the idea of their different properties, making hardball black like a classic bowling ball and jelly ball a slime green, giving it the likeness of flubber. In hardball meets jelly ball, I feel as though the differing properties of the balls is well communicated. In the exaggerated squash and stretch of jelly ball, it's easy to see its almost wet elasticity. However, it was fed back to me that due to the staging of the scene, I opted for a central center angle focusing on symmetry. It's not easy to read the intention of characters and therefore the wider narrative. On revisiting the scene, I have chosen to perhaps move the jelly ball to the right to better focus on the hard ball movement and attempts to speed through its obstacle.